It's time to roar, Tiger fans. This is the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. I'm your co-host, Big Al. We have a great show for you tonight. We're going to talk a little Clemson, BC. We're going to talk 3 things we learned from this past week and give you our Week 10 picks against the spread. We won't waste any more of your time because we want to get this thing rolling. Let's load the buses, Tiger fans. We are live.
The Morgan Thomas Show, brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? It's a Monday night. We're back again on Monday night, something we did last week, and we're continuing it because of some work scheduling issues on our end. But we hope you enjoy joining us tonight on a Monday night, a lovely night. It's been a great day for me, Al. How was your Monday so far? Was it another Monday or was it a good one?
Well, it's almost always a Monday for me, but hey, once you've made it through the Monday, what better way to end it than to talk Tigers at the end? I can't think of anything I'd rather do.
I always get excited to come talk about the Clemson Tiger football team, and coming up soon, Al, the basketball team. So it's going to be a good time to start getting into that gold medal team that we talked about during the summer, and we got to see a little glimpse of what they could do. So I think it's going to be a cool season, a fun season for that basketball team. I look forward to it. It is Halloween week, and I was wondering, Al, do you have kind of a fun, weird costume for your twins? Al has twin girls, and he usually does like a quirky costume that is a little hard to decipher for me, but do you have something in mind?
I don't have anything in mind. I've kind of been banished from doing the costumes. I don't think people understand my sense of humor. So my girls right now are going as Owlette and Moana. So they have gotten their costumes. We got them yesterday, and they are really excited about them. They look adorable, so I'm ready to rock and roll with them on Thursday.
Well, you did what you could until Disney got a hold of them, and now it's over now. You've got to buy the Disney costume, Nickelodeon as well. But we hope you're enjoying the show, and we hope you enjoy watching us over on Monday. I know we got a lot of new viewers on our Monday night show. Had a little bit of technical difficulties here with some of the video feed, but we hopefully got it working for you. Everything looks like it's running really well on my end. If you're over on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Let us know you're here in the chat and on Facebook as well. Al, how many people we got over on Facebook right now?
Man, we're rolling with 16 right about now, so another solid start for Facebook. Right now I see, let's see, Ant Cordero is with us. Kevron, as always, it's good to see him with us. Audrey's watching. David's watching. My wife's watching as well, so we got a good crowd over here on Facebook to start off.
A little bit lower over on YouTube, 6 right now on YouTube. Normally it kind of spikes up, so let us know, or just go ahead and share the video and like the video so other people can see it and it'll help us out there. But you are watching and listening to the Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host, Morgan Thomas, with my co-host, Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome back to the show this week. We are streaming live from Greenville, South Carolina, so wherever you're watching or listening to us, that's right. You can listen to us now as a podcast over on the Roar.radio or 105.5 FM or 97.5 FM. Lots of places that you can check us out. And our traditional places are Facebook and YouTube, so you can check us out there as well. Let me tell you a little bit about our main sponsor that provides everything for us, and that is Black's Tire Inc. in Westminster, South Carolina. Family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, give them a call, 864-647-9292. Check them out right past Clemson through Seneca, and you'll see them there on the right as you get into Westminster. Family owned and operated for a long time. Alan and I have both used them. But Al, let's get into the show because I know a lot of fans are excited about how Clemson is doing and about how they have improved in their offensive game plan. As I kind of get my timer, hey, I have a timer now, all right? So I don't need Alan to be my timer. I have a fun little timer, all right? But let's get into the show, Al. Clemson dominates Boston College. That's really the highlight of this weekend for Clemson fans. Clemson is now 8-0 after just destroying Boston College 59-7. I think you and I both said somewhere around that range. I don't know if it was exactly right. I know that Mark Childress said earlier today that he picked the score, and it was the correct score at halftime, but he didn't pick the correct full score. I don't think anybody really expected Boston College offense to just completely be shut down the way they were. That was a welcome surprise, at least for Clemson fans. I know that we knew our defense was good, but for a team that came out against North Carolina or North Carolina State, excuse me, and just ran all over them for over 400 yards, to then turn around and barely get 70-something yards against Clemson, rushing the ball. That was a pretty cool feat. Trevor Lawrence, back to his old self. He did really well, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. Travis Etienne, 109 yards, 3 touchdowns. But the highlight, the player of the game, is a guy we've talked about in fall camp. Everybody was looking forward to, because he was a guy that was supposed to transfer and then decided not to, and that was DeAndre Overton. How excited were you to see Overton? 119 yards, 3 touchdowns on 3 catches. You can't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. Actually, I went to the game with my dad on Saturday, and we actually had an up close and personal view. We were about the 4th row, so it was really cool to see. Especially obviously when they're at our end, obviously being on the 4th row is a little low. So when they're on the other side of the field, it's hard to see kind of what's going on. But DeAndre Overton, man, I could not be happier for this kid. Obviously, he kind of moved to the slot when Amari Rodgers went down, and people were hoping that he would be a matchup nightmare in that position. And then, of course, Amari came back sooner than anybody ever would have thought from his ACL, and has done a great job. And he is a huge, huge player for us at that position. So to see DeAndre Overton kind of back on the outside, every time he touched the ball, he scored, and most of them were pretty long. I mean, it was an incredible thing to watch. Very proud of the kid. He's put in the work. He's done his time. He's waited his turn. And even though he's still not the starter, he's making quality reps when he's out there, and that's always a good thing to see.
And Dabo Swinney came out after the game and said he was happy that DeAndre stayed the course, didn't transfer. Man, we've heard so many stories of players coming out and transferring and then it not work out so well for them. Actually worked out pretty well for Kelly Bryant. He did pretty well for a couple of games, didn't do very well last week. But, DeAndre Overton was one of those guys that I think originally we thought was going to flourish in the slot position, taking the place of Amari Rodgers. Dabo kind of presented it as a big, tall, typically an outside jump ball type receiver playing the slot. And it was going to be kind of the defense's worst nightmare. Well, I don't know if that I would say that really happened.
No.
I feel like before he even got a chance to kind of flourish in that spot, even though I was kind of skeptical that he would because of his size doing those kind of routes, before he got even a chance, Amari Rodgers was back. And definitely something that most people did not expect for a guy to come back from an ACL, 5.5 months later. Yeah. But it was good to see him come back. Man, did you see this? He had only had 4 touchdowns in the previous 3 seasons with Clemson. He was a guy that came in. I know you mentioned to me Overton well before we started this analytical thing, this show that we did, that we're doing now. You mentioned to me that you were really excited about him and you felt like he was going to be that next big wide receiver. Well, then he never could really compete with Mike Williams, and then he never really could compete with Ross or Higgins. Higgins first and then Ross the second. And so he was kind of lost in the fold there because of so many wide receivers, but it is good to see him come back. As far as the offense, were there any players for you that stuck out? For me, I mean, Travis Etienne having a really good game was one that I like to look back on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned all the ones that I was going to go over. You talked about Lawrence, and he looked really good. His decision making was much more polished looking than it has been in in the past few games. He used his check down when he needed to. He looked over the middle like he needed to. He waited for things to be open and not force things quite as bad as he has been. And I was really proud of him there. Obviously, I think he missed T. Higgins. Higgins was kind of wide open early in the game. He kind of missed him there. But really, there's very little to pick on with Lawrence in this game. Etienne ran like Etienne's been running the past couple of games. He looks like he's running hard with a purpose. That's what I like to see from him. He still hasn't got that big, long, 80-yard run that I think everybody's kind of waiting on from him. But he gets, he'll get the chunk plays of 20 yards, 25 yards. And of course, he's good for, I don't know what his average is, but it's several yards a carry. And this guy is just one of the best running backs in the country. I think he's Clemson's all-time best running back. and he's only going to prove that more and more as the season goes on. But DeAndre Overton was obviously the highlight of the offense for sure. I'm just really proud of him. So I'm looking forward to more offensive performances like that.
Yeah, you mentioned about Travis Etienne being one of the best running backs we've ever seen. I know we love CJ Spiller. He's going to be an all-time favorite for all of us. I actually just got his jersey signed, my old jersey that I bought back in 2007 at the Tiger Sports Shop. I kept it. I did not beat it up. I didn't wear it that much. I actually kind of outgrew it. It's a small. Go figure that I used to buy a small. I don't know when that was. Definitely 2007. But those military days are well past me now. But he's one touchdown away from James Davis' all-time Clemson mark. Mm-hmm. So, that's really awesome. I look forward to see him breaking that this year. I believe he will, of course. And then he's also he had his 12th 100-yard rushing game, and he's 4 away from the school record. There's 4 games left, so it'll be kind of tough. 4 games in the season left for him to rush over 100 yards. Can he do it? I believe he can do it definitely against Wofford. Can he do it against NC State? I think he can do it against NC State. South Carolina might be a little bit more difficult. And then Wake Forest. I think he could do it against Wake Forest too. So he might have a good shot at beating that 100-yard rushing record as well. So I'm excited for that. And he's definitely, since October, check this out. 121 yards rushing, 191 yards rushing, 109 yards rushing. This is really what we were wanting the entire season for him to do consistently. Right. September was not that good for him. August was good. September not. Now October turning around. I feel like the whole team as a whole on offense is starting to click, and they're not making any more mistakes.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. They, as Dabo says, they're entering their championship phase of the season. The end of this season, right, looking for the Atlantic Championship and then the ACC Championship and so on and so forth. So it's a big time. It's a good time for them to start clicking. And if they start clicking like this and continue to do this, which I assume they will, like they seem to have in years past, people just better look out, because it's going to be the same old story we've seen every single year.
And how about Logan Rudolph? Let's flip over to the defense. How about Logan Rudolph with the scoop and score? I wanted to see him dance. I haven't seen any videos of him dancing in the locker room. Audrey showed me one of his videos from, I believe, the last 2 games where they brought him into the kind of that pile to dance in the locker room, and it was really funny to see. About as good as the Mac Brown dances, but we'll talk about Mac Brown dances later on in the show. But when it comes to North Carolina, but Logan Rudolph did really well. The defense as a whole, I mean, can you really complain about what they did against Boston College? If you look back at, I'm looking back at some of the stats. Chad Smith led the way, 9 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. De'Aaron Kendrick, 6 total tackles, 5 solo. Isaiah Simmons was in for a tackle for loss. Jordan Williams and KJ Henry was in for a sack. Chad Smith again in for a sack. So total 78 total tackles and 2 sacks. A really good job for that defense. Anybody stick out for you other than Logan Rudolph?
It was really Chad Smith for me. He was obviously number 43, got in there and forced the fumble to 34, who scooped it and scored to Logan Rudolph. Chad Smith was the one that caused the fumble on that play. Chad Smith, very active, like you said, 9 total tackles in that sack. He's been doing a lot better. He's gotten a lot better with his tackling. Obviously, we kind of gave him and James Skowski a little bit of grief in the beginning of the year. Both of them seem to have really shored up their tackling, which is a huge thing for this defense moving forward. And I'm sure they'll only get better with everything there as well. So that was certainly good to see. I think I mentioned it last week on the show. Boston College, we knew what they had coming in. They lost their quarterback. We knew they were pretty much a run-only attack. And I said at the time, if you can only do one thing, you can't do anything against Clemson, because Brent Venables will stop it. And that's exactly what happened. We held them to 7 points. They had that one good drive, but other than that, it was nothing. The defense continues to impress, continues to overachieve from what everybody thought it was going to be this year. So another great day for the defense, another good day for Chad Smith, and I hope he continues to get them going forward.
Again, like I was saying about the rushing defense, 44 rushing attempts for Boston College, 2.2 yards per attempt, 97 total yards. They are just a complete domination from a team that, again, completely revamped defensive line. Would you ever expect an A.J. Dillon to only get 76 yards. Now, he did pass the all-time rushing record, but he didn't pass the all-time touchdown record for Boston College. So he still got that one left to get before the end of the season, which I believe he will. And I think he's a great running back. Don't get me wrong, but like you said, when all you have is that running game, you don't really have the threat of a passing game. Grossel, 53 yards passing. Woo, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad right there. Only 18 attempts. I mean, we're talking 44 attempts rushing and 18 attempts passing. I think you knew it was kind of weird. They ran the ball for 7 yards the first play of the game. I'm talking about Boston College. Ran the ball for 7 yards and then threw it 3 times for a 3 and out. And then, they threw it 2 times and then for a 3 and out. And then they came out and they threw it, I think, every time the next series. And then they stopped and they said, okay, we're done throwing the ball. And it seemed like for the rest of the game, they're just going to run the ball up the middle for the entire game. Mm-hmm. And when you get, like you said, when you get one-dimensional like that, especially against such a talented team like Clemson, it's not good. Up next for the Boston College Eagles, as they travel, they're going to be traveling to Syracuse, 3-5 overall. That's going to be one we're going to talk about in segment number 3 in our ACC picks against the spread. What do we think Boston College will do when they're traveling to Syracuse? I think they got a pretty good shot up there in Syracuse. Syracuse is not the team that everybody thought they would be this year. Right. And then we know the Clemson Tigers are going to host 5-2. Wofford Terriers. So good record there for the Terriers, but I think this is definitely a game that's going to, be one of those ones that just kind of get them ready for the next, get some of those guys playing those third string guys and things like that. But I noticed let me look on Twitter real quick. This is something I had pulled up before the show started, but then we had some technical difficulties. So TigerNet comes out with a playing time breakdown. Have you seen this, Al?
I haven't.
So TigerNet and Brandon Rink and the guys over there, the writers over there, they come out with a playing time breakdown, basically telling you about the snaps for each player, and kind of talking about some notable snaps. You've got Ben Batson, came out number 92, threw a ball. I never thought I would see a number 92 throwing the ball. But another thing that I think was interesting is just the true freshman participation. Here's some guys, kind of a red shirt alert, right? Tyler Davis, he's already played 4+, so he's not going to get redshirted. Andrew Booth, Joseph Ngata, Frank Ladson, Davis Allen, guy who he had a pretty decent game, pretty decent showing against Boston College. He's already played more than 4. Guy I talked about way back in March, Kane Patterson, has already played more than 4. He stepped it up. A lot of people said Keith McGuire would be a guy who would be that first guy in the fold, but I saw film on Kane Patterson, and he was really good in high school. I look forward to see what he can do and what Brent Venables can do for him. Sheridan Jones, +4. Ches Malusi, Landon Zanders, another guy you like a lot, +4 games. Jalen Phillips, Joseph Charleston, Michael Dukes, Will Putnam, Rook Ororo. He's got exactly 4. And then the guys that don't have 4 yet, you're looking at Jalen Lay, Keith McGuire, Tyson Pumachan, Mason Trotter, Hunter Rayburn, Caleb Boating, Levanta Bentley, Ray Thornton, Brandon Spector, Aiden Swanson, Taquan Johnson, Intenosa Rubin, Greg Williams, and Brighton Constantine, which we know Brighton's recovering from another ACL, so Don't expect him to play. But there's a lot of freshmen that came in this year, and my whole point with that is there's a lot of freshmen that are already past their red shirt, and they're playing a lot this year, so it's exciting to see those freshmen. Hey, let us know what you think over in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. We're live simulcasting right now. If you want to get into the conversation, we have our call studio up. 864-772-6674. Get in on that as well. Buffalo Wild Wings hotline. And let us know what you think. I've got 17 over on YouTube. Thank you so much, YouTube family, for checking us out. We got Bob, Luke, Chase, Tiger Nation, all supporting us in the chat. So appreciate. Let us know what you think, what you thought about the Boston College game last Saturday. Alan, what you got over on Facebook?
Right now we got 20. Joey jumped in. Spencer, Ashley, Mom, Al, Artith, Anthony, Jimmy, John, Doty, David, and Mark. We got everybody rock and rolls with us over here. If we could, let's get a quick question in here. Al says, thoughts on Etienne breaking Priester's career rushing record. Right now it looks like Etienne's about 650 yards behind with what seemingly a few games to go, assuming he goes pro after this year. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think he can reach that 650 yards by the end of the season?
Um, 650 yards by the end of the season. That would be pretty tough. You got. I mean, can you include playoff games in that situation?
I don't see why not.
I mean, if you can include playoff games, it'd be close. Because you got to think you got 4 games left and then 2 playoff games, hopefully. But then there's also the championship game. So there's 7 games left. If you make it all the way, wow, that's crazy. That if you make it to the championship game, you got 7 games left. Man, that's a lot of games for these guys. But it's going to be tough. I mean, I don't see Travis. I think it'll be close. I mean, it's hard to say, really. I mean, it's going to be a crapshoot, really. He seems to be on pace to get more than 100 for the rest of the season, every game. Right. But it just depends. It depends on who you draw in the playoffs. Really, I'm not so worried about ACC championship and before that, but the playoffs, it just depends on who you draw. I think an Ohio State type team with a really strong defense might be difficult to run on. Maybe an LSU might be difficult for him to run on. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think he's got a good chance to break that record. I have somebody, BE gets in and says Priester didn't have the playoff games, which is what makes him more special. Now, if I'm not mistaken, was Priester not a 4-year guy?
We'll have to check that. I'm not really sure.
I want to say Raymond Priester was a 4-year guy, and Etienne would be doing the same thing in 3. So if that's truly the case, I could be off on that. But if that's truly the case, I mean, that's pretty special. That's pretty special there. But yeah, I think Etienne will have a good chance at it. I think he'll bust a couple of those big runs that we've kind of, like I said, been waiting on all season. He'll have a couple games around the 150 mark, which kind of gives him a little leeway the rest of the way going forward. But assuming Clemson makes the national championship, I think he's got a good shot at it.
People over on chat and YouTube are saying they just don't think he's going to get enough touches.
That's fair.
Not so much that he's got enough games. He definitely has enough games to do it, especially if they make it to the championship game. But then again, Priester, I know, definitely didn't make it. They didn't have the playoffs back then. So it's different. And we're assuming that Travis Etienne's not going to continue his career after this year.
Correct.
To be honest, I don't think – I mean, when it's a running back, your legs are only young so long.
Right.
And if it were me and I'm a running back, I'm not staying. Now I love that C.J. Spiller did it, but in a lot of senses, for your legs, you got to get in the NFL as fast as you can because they're going to beat you up big time. But hey, we got to take a quick break. Stay with us. When we get back, we're going to look over Week 9 college football. Things that we liked from college football or things that we learned from college football last week. Check us out again over on the Morgan Thomas Show on Facebook, YouTube, theroar.radio, and we are now a podcast. So anywhere you like to listen to podcasts, check us out there. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with Morgan Thomas and Big Al, my good friend over in Anderson, South Carolina. If you didn't know, we've got this fancy background, but Alan's over there. He's not in Bristol, and I'm not in Bristol. We're over here in the upstate, and we're Clemson Tiger fans, Clemson Tiger grads. It's awesome to always be able to say that now. But join us over on Facebook and YouTube. And I mentioned before Buffalo Wild Wings hotline. I'm sorry, I'll have to take that back. Not the Buffalo Wild Wings hotline tonight. We had those technical difficulties at the beginning of the show, and it forced us to reset everything, and I did not have time to pull up the show without getting us started. Or to pull up the phone line without getting us started. And unless you want me to sit here and dial in, I think that would be kind of annoying. But moving on. So if you have some questions, concerns, emotional outbursts, you can let us know. You can still be a part of the show just via chat room. So make sure you get in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and give us a question. We'd love to answer any of your questions or talk about anything you want to talk about specifically. Let me tell you about our good friends over at Tiger Sports Shop. They dress us for success. As you can see, my shirt right here, I believe this is a Nike shirt that they have, and it's purple stripes with a tiger paw on the side or on the pocket area here. It's one of my more comfortable ones. You notice I always wear these golf polos. That's my deal. I love the golf polos. And if you've seen some of our previous shows, we wear some of their exclusive lines. So check them out. Some of their exclusive line, their Nike line, their Columbia. I mean, I have a little bit of everything. I had so much in my closet that I told Alan, I said, hey, we need to go talk to Sean and Julie up there, and we need to be a sponsor of them. We need them to be a sponsor of us because we already wear everything from their store. We love their store so much. You can also check them out on tigersports.com, tigersportshop.com, and you'll be able to shop online wherever you are, even if you aren't in Clemson. Alan, what do you got going on?
Well, I have a purple polo as well as an Antigua polo. This is actually from a while ago, so I'm not sure if they still have this one in store. But guys, they are coming up with stuff like this all the time. Okay, they're coming up with great stuff like this all the time. They're constantly churning stuff out. Please check out their exclusive stuff, their Tiger Sports Shop branded stuff. That's some great stuff as well. That's obviously stuff that we usually wear on the show as well. But I mean, this is another great polo. I've never gotten anything from the Tiger Sports Shop that I've been disappointed with. So check out either location. Obviously on Tiger Boulevard or US 123, downtown, or the one on the bypass. They're both amazing. I've never gotten anything I've been disappointed with. So I'm so glad they're one of our sponsors. We really appreciate their support.
Yeah, and that's tigersports.com. I went and double checked, not tigersportshop.com, tigersports.com. Right. Even easier to get to. Like I said, if you're one of those fans, I know we have some people over in Kansas watching us right now. So if you're one of those fans over outside of the upstate, go check them out and get you some Clemson gear. Or if you're a friend, Ant Cordero, who's over in San Jose, hey, get you some Clemson gear on tigersports.com. Al, we got Bob and Chase and Luke. Luke says watching us on the big screen. Wow, I don't know. Oof, that kind of makes me a little nervous. You're watching me on the big screen, but that's pretty cool if you can do that. Chase again says he doesn't think that he agrees. He's not there. Travis Etienne's not going to get enough carries. And Bob is saying he saw an interview with Trevor today. He seems to have a cold. I haven't seen any interviews from him today, but I don't expect him to get a lot of playing time this weekend, so I'm not really that worried about it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not particularly worried about that either. I think it doesn't really matter who we start for the Wofford game. I think we'll be just fine. We can ride Etienne to the finish line if need be. Hopefully he won't be, in there for much more than a half. He can just get a few big runs and, pad those stats a little bit so we can get closer to that all-time rushing record mark, and then we can kind of move on.
Randy just jumped in. He said, go Tigers, Randy. We have 18 watching over on YouTube right now. How many you got on Facebook?
We have 19. I'm going to have to, one-up you again over here. I saw, let's see, Trey get in, and Adam get in, and David get in. I think there was somebody else. Chad got in as well, and we talked about B earlier with his statement he had. So we got a lot of good listeners on Monday night. Seems to be a good night for traffic.
The best way to help support the show is to go and share it. Share it to a Facebook group. Share it to a forum, TigerNet, Tiger Illustrate, wherever you can share the show. We appreciate it, because if we share the show, then it kind of looks like we're self-promoting and people get kind of mad about it. I don't know why. But if you share the show and say how awesome it is and you would like to invite other Clemson fans to watch it, by all means do it. Now, we share it to some Facebook groups because they allow it, but if you could, help us out. And also like the video if you're enjoying the video, so we'd appreciate that. But let's get on to topic or segment number 2, Al, and that is 3 things that we learned from week 9. You and I kind of discussed this. This is normally a little bit different than what we do with our top fives, where we kind of don't tell each other the list. We told each other what we're going to pick this time and kind of going to, explain out why we pick these things. But the first thing for me was really a culmination of the past 2 weeks. Ohio State makes a statement by blowing out Wisconsin 38-7. That was at home, so it wasn't in Wisconsin. I felt like that was a little bit of a factor, but as we know, Wisconsin had previously lost the last week because they were looking ahead, and then it turned into from 1 loss to 2 loss now, and it looks like Ohio State has taken a firm grip on the Big Ten. There's really nobody else that will challenge them. Wait, let me take that back. PJ Fleck might be upset with me for saying that. Minnesota is undefeated right now, Al, and then you got Penn State also up there vying for that top spot in the Big Ten. What did you think about Ohio State just completely blowing out Wisconsin? Was that expected, or was it a shock?
I wouldn't say it was a shock, but at the same time, I didn't expect that to happen. I think if you'll remember our pick segment last week, I did pick Wisconsin to cover the spread. I thought they were looking ahead in the Illinois game, and I thought they would kind of, force themselves back into the playoff picture by getting a possible big win on the road. I thought they would come to play, at least make it a close game. And, for a while, it was a close game. I think till about half, I think Ohio State scored a touchdown right before half. I think Wisconsin maybe kind of went into a prevent type thing, and Ohio State went right down the field and scored, made it 10-0. It was kind of over from there, unfortunately. I think Wisconsin scored early in the third quarter, but then they really couldn't do anything the rest of the game. So that was a little disappointing. I thought they had a better chance than that. I thought they'd be really motivated. The stunner of the year was against Illinois. That was the biggest stunner of the year so far until maybe last week. Kansas State over Oklahoma. I still think Illinois over Wisconsin was a bigger stunner for sure. But Ohio State's first real test of the season, they passed with flying colors. They absolutely hammered them at home. They made the statement. They showed what they're made of, and I'm assuming we're going to see more of that from the rest of the year. Justin Fields is playing really well. Their offense is really explosive. Their defense is fantastic, and they obviously have one of the best defenders in the country, if not the best defender in the country on the defensive line. I think you had some kind of talk with him on Twitter, right? Or talk about him at least.
Alan, I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, but it was actually one of my most successful tweets that I had to delete because Ohio State fans just trashed me about it. But I said that Isaiah Simmons is a better defender than, and he should be the defensive player of the year than Chase Young. And, I said one of the reasons was because he had 24 more tackles in one less game. And then everybody just jumped on me. Well, he's a defensive end. You can't compare linebacker tackles to defensive end tackles, and I get it. And I felt kind of bad after tweeting that, and I was like, well, you're right. A linebacker is supposed to have more tackles than a defensive end. And then I went back and watched the game, and I got to say, Chase Young, even though I kind of in the moment had my orange-colored glasses on, you cannot ignore Chase Young. The guy is completely dominant. He was completely dominant in that game. 4 sacks in that game, 2 strip sacks that led to a fumble that was recovered by one of his linebackers. Had an amazing game. I believe he now has over 13 sacks on the year, which is just amazing for a guy to do that and still have so many games left. And we believe they're going to be in the playoffs, so he's still got a lot to do. And so Chase Young is definitely a guy. He's going to be a first-round draft pick, and you got to give him his props. Do I think that Isaiah Simmons is better than him? Well, I will say during Saturday, when I had my orange-colored glasses on, yes. But as I reflected and I got everybody's feedback, specifically all those Ohio State guys out there, Ohio State fans don't really like Clemson fans. And we're just those country bumpkins out there. And I was kind of adding fuel to the fire with my comment. But I will say, got to give props where props due. Hey, let's just enjoy both of them because Isaiah Simmons is a great player, an anchor for Clemson, and so is Chase Young. Those two guys, it will be amazing if they get to play against each other. They're not going to be on the field at the same time, but it'll be amazing to see if it's Clemson versus Ohio State. I'd love to see that in the national championship game, honestly, not only because of Chase Young, but because of Justin Fields. He's been doing really well. And J.K. Dobbins, 163 yards and 2 touchdowns against Wisconsin, while Jonathan Taylor, Allen, Heisman candidate Jonathan Taylor, was stopped for 52 yards. That really shows to me how awesome Ohio State's defensive line is and their defense is. On the flip side, though, Justin Fields had to run for his life a little bit against Wisconsin's defense. He was sacked 5 times in the game. So there is a little bit of a vulnerability there. I think that Clemson and Brent Venables can take advantage of if they are facing each other in the playoffs. It's definitely an offensive line that you can get by and you can exploit, and you can get to Justin Fields. Now Fields is very mobile, but I wouldn't say he's any more mobile than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is very mobile too. So I think Clemson's defense will be able to understand how to play against Justin Fields because they have a Trevor Lawrence type player too. And so I think it'll be a really good game, a really close matchup. Probably not one of those blowout games like Clemson fans like to remind Ohio State fans. What was that, 30-0 or 31-0?
31-0. Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be a blowout like that by Clemson, but who knows? I mean, Clemson continues to get better. They haven't even hit their championship phase. So it'll be exciting to see. For me, in my number one, I still have LSU as number one, and I put this out on Twitter at Clemson Morgan. I have LSU number one, but Ohio State, if anything, they're number two. There might be 1B for me. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah. Right now, I think based on resume, kind of like we said last week, I think you have to have LSU at number one. I think Ohio State two, maybe Clemson three. I think they have an argument to be above Bama for sure. Right now, obviously, Oklahoma would be moved down after their loss to Kansas State. And again, it wasn't that I thought Oklahoma. I think I maybe had them two as of last week, just based off their wins. But that Texas win looks worse and worse every week as it goes by. And that was just kind of what they've accomplished at the time, and that's what you kind of go by. And every week that changes. And when you get beat by Kansas State, you drop like a rock, plain and simple. So I would probably have LSU 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3 as of right now.
Thank you for reminding me of that, Alan, because you're always reminding me of all the mistakes I make or the things that I say. But it wasn't really a mistake. Did you say Oklahoma was second, number two? Was that your pick for them last week?
As of last week, they were number two, yes.
So
as of this week, you are still behind in the picks, just FYI.
Oh, all right. Oh, man, and I picked Oklahoma. I think everybody picked Oklahoma to beat Kansas State. Nobody expected that to be an upset there, but it was definitely an interesting one. Talking about that game, Oklahoma lost 48-41.
Yeah.
When you look back at the game, Al, Oklahoma did not get any touchdowns in the second quarter, did not get any touchdowns in the third quarter. So for two complete quarters, had nothing going on offense. I watched the replay of the game, and their offense was barely on the field. And when Kansas State was on the field, they literally could do everything. I mean, they ran to the right side, they ran up the middle, they ran to the left, they ran off tackle, they ran misdirection, they ran sweeps, they threw the ball deep. They threw the ball to the sideline. They threw a ball across the middle. I mean, anything Kansas State wanted to do, they could do against Oklahoma. I think everybody thought that eventually Oklahoma's defense would catch up to them and it'd be the same old thing. Everybody was kind of anticipating that. But the interesting thing for me was that Jalen Hurts, when he was trying to take the game over, or, it seemed like it took him a long time to get that offense back and running. 2 quarters full. I mean, they went up 17-0 and then went down like 21-48 and then had to fight their way back just to get close. And then there was a controversial, I guess you could say controversial onside kick. I felt like it was clear as day that it hit his kneecap and bounced off him. I mean, a football is odd shape, but there's no way the football is going one direction and all of a sudden ricochets down the field. And I feel like you ever notice announcers, I don't know if they do like a rock, paper, scissors, but there's always that one announcer that just seems to have the complete opposite idea of what really happened. You'll have that one announcer that'll say, okay, yeah, it hit his kneecap. You can clearly see it on the screen. Right. But then you'll have the color guy come in and say, well, I don't know, Al. I don't know if he, we're going to have to see this again. It looks like it might have hit air and went 360. And, it may not have hit was it 10 yards? And then you can clearly see the line. It's 10 yards. I don't know. Can you clearly? It's like, I guess they pay them to be clueless about it, just to have something going on, just to have some controversy there on these plays. I'm not just talking about that play. I'm talking about a bunch of plays.
Sure.
But man, Skylar Thompson, their quarterback, 213 yards passing and ran for 4 touchdowns. Very interesting to see what Oklahoma, how they just kind of dropped the ball there in the middle of the game. But let me ask you this. They're just one loss. I feel like they still have a chance.
Sure, anybody with one loss still has a chance. I mean, there's going to be some good games probably for them down the road. There's obviously going to have a championship game, and any one loss conference champion is going to have a chance. Now, I think they would be kind of farther down the list than say, an Oregon who has lost one game to a highly ranked SEC team at a neutral site game. So I think they're going to kind of be above them. I think Oklahoma is kind of behind the eight ball with this one, but obviously, if those other teams end up with two losses, obviously that's going to put them ahead of the pack as far as one loss is concerned. So I think they still have a chance, but I don't think it's a very good one in my opinion. Uh, you know, I just I didn't expect this to be an upset. Okay, I did pick Kansas State against the spread to kind of stay close to Oklahoma, but I did not think they were going to pull the outright victory for sure. Um, and like you were talking about the controversial onside kick, there was no controversy there. It hit him at the 9.5 yards down the field. It was funny. They showed about 100 replays if you were watching that thing, and they showed one time they showed an angle that was kind of from the sky. And I'm like, well, that once you realize that it hit his knee, which they had determined way before, it seemed like at least the announcers did. All you needed to do was look at that view and say, yeah, he was like 9 yards down the field. There's no question about it. And they took forever on that review, which is something I think the fans get really upset about, and they have every right to. You can see a couple views on camera. It's pretty definitive. You move on with life, but they have to sit there and look at every view over and over again. It takes forever, gets you out of the flow of the game. Gives the other team a chance to rest or whatever it may be. It's just kind of crazy. Now, obviously, this one was at the end of the game. It's a little bit different scenario, but it wasn't controversial. It hit them before 10 yards. Sorry, Oklahoma. Better luck next time. Look, Kansas State got way up on this one. They were 25 points up with like 13 minutes left in the game. And then they started playing not to lose, which is what coaches seem to do. They seem to be in love with that. They don't want to make the big mistake. And that's fair when you have an offense like Oklahoma who's as explosive as they are. However, I don't know how many times coaches are going to have to see this scenario play out. Okay, when you play not to lose, you play back on defense, you give them the passes they want, even though you're trying to give up the 5-yard passes. It seems like every other throw, they're throwing it for 25 yards down the field, in the middle of the zone or something like that. When you play not to lose, it's a recipe for disaster. And Kansas State almost learned that the hard way with a major comeback by Oklahoma.
Now, the number 3 thing that we learned from week 9 is something, Al, I'm going to go full screen on this one because I've got some talking to do to some Michigan fans right now.
Go for it.
So Michigan comes out, and I say last week, I cannot pick Michigan. I can't pick Michigan because I don't like Jim Harbaugh at all. And Nathan is already in YouTube saying, better talk about Michigan. I know, I see you there. But I didn't pick Michigan. I haven't picked Michigan all year. It's worked for me pretty well so far. Didn't work for me against the Iowa game, and that was a home game. And I went back and I said in the show last Monday night, I said, I'm not picking Michigan. I'm picking Notre Dame because I like Ian Book better. Well, that was a terrible choice. But I will say something. I apologize to those of you who only watch the show and aren't part of our college football pick'em, because if you were, you would notice that I changed my mind. Before the game started on Saturday, I decided to go ahead and pick Michigan, partly because of how Alan told me to pick Michigan, but also because I felt like I went back and rewatched the Penn State game, and to be honest with you, something happened with Michigan there. Now, a lot of people said, oh, Michigan found their offense when they played against Rutgers. They didn't find their offense then. They found their offense in that game against Penn State. In a hostile environment in Happy Valley, they came and almost tied the game back at the very end if it wasn't for a missed catch by a guy who just, was in tears after the game for missing that catch. This team really is starting to show to me that they are the best 2-loss team in America right now. They've got Shea Patterson, seems to have figured it out. He's moving the ball well, getting the offense down the field. Zach Charbonnet, ran for 2 touchdowns in the first half. Hassan Haskins, a converted linebacker, had a career-high 149 yards on 20 carries and did really well. And, Jim Harbaugh is one of those guys who's had a terrible time, winning against top 10 teams. He had an 8-game losing streak and was able to snap it, destroying the Irish's hopes for getting into playoffs. And now Michigan still has a chance to make some noise, a little bit of noise, though, because I don't see them getting to the top of the hill in the Big Ten. They already have that 2 loss. One of those losses is to Penn State. So they would have to run the table. I believe they still have to play Ohio State, and I want to say they might still have to play Minnesota, or they definitely have to play one other big team. I think it's Michigan State, actually. Michigan State and then Ohio State. So two big teams for Michigan to still play. They would have to win out and then completely turn around and hope that Ohio State and Penn State lose like 2 games. So I don't really see Michigan do anything in the Big Ten, but that doesn't mean they still can't make some noise in the Big Ten and kind of disrupt some things for the college football playoffs for other teams. So, all right, now I'm off my soapbox. Now I've apologized to Michigan fans out there. If it's a home game and it's Michigan, right now I'm probably picking Michigan to win all of their home games because I think that they're that good. I really do think that Michigan has figured something out. They've got a pretty good rush defense now that was at first non-existent. They've kind of figured that out. And their rushing game on the other end, their offense seemed to have an identity.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been really up and down this season. They barely escaped Army with an overtime victory earlier. They got blown out by Wisconsin, then they beat Iowa. They almost completed a comeback on the road at Penn State, and then, blowing out what we thought was a decent Notre Dame team. They've just been kind of on a roller coaster. The most points that Notre Dame had given up was 27 to Southern Cal, and Michigan just obliterated them. So they definitely have found their offense for sure. As much as I like giving Harbaugh and the Wolverines a hard time, it was an impressive win, no doubt, and I think they can disrupt some things moving forward.
Well, let us know over on YouTube and Facebook what you think. If you want to get in on the conversation, you have to get in through chat room over on Facebook and YouTube. Al, right now we have 27 people on YouTube. Thank you so much for the support. Hey, if you're out there on YouTube, like it. There's a little thumbs up button. Like it down there so other people can see it and it gets spread out more on YouTube in the suggestions. And then let your friends know about it on the other social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, by giving it a share. We'd really appreciate that. Al, what you got over on Facebook?
We got about 20 over here on Facebook right now. I saw Anthony get in, and Dad got in, and Jason got in. Our friend Jason Priester gets in. I'm sure he's going to look forward to these spread picks here coming up soon. He's got a little catching up to do. But Anthony gets in and says, he says, by the way, I'm following both streams because I want to see all the comments. So that is exactly what we like to hear, Anthony. I kind of commented back to him and let him know how much we appreciate that. But we're doing great over here on Facebook as usual. So hopefully we can keep the comments coming.
I had no idea you could do that, Anthony. Wow, great job. Let's give you a golf clap for that. A golf clap. Anthony, let us know. Go over on Facebook, send us a message, a private message with your address, and we'll send you a Morgan Thomas Show sticker with a Big Al sticker for your efforts there. Man, great effort streaming both at the same time. We appreciate that. Hope you're streaming on the big screen like I believe Luke is too, or who was that? Yeah, I think it was Luke that's streaming on the big screen. So hopefully you're doing both streams right now on 50-inch screens. We'd really appreciate that. But we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us because when we get back, we're going to give you our Week 10 picks against the spread. You're going to like it. Allen is killing it right now, 52% against the spread, and I'm a lowly 57%. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. I'm your co-host, Big Al. We're about to get into segment number 3, but before we get into our picks against the spread, I'm going to tell you about our segment 3 sponsor, Heating Cooling Services, Inc. They are family-owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller or anything in between. If you want to breathe nice and easy and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, please give Jason or Mark Trammell a call at 864-224-7655. Again, that number is 864-224-7655. Ladies and gentlemen, they will take good care of you. They are somebody that I have used myself. They save me a ton of money. They are good people. I've known Jason and Mark for a long, long time. We've been friends since elementary school. So give them a call. Make sure that you mention that you heard about them on the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. We would really appreciate it for sure. Morgan, so now here we are with the big pick segment. All right. So if you want to give us an update on the leaderboard, you can go ahead and do that,
Wow. Way to throw it to me. I appreciate that. Alan, 138 and 83, 62% overall. If I said 52 in the break, I'm sorry. It's actually 62%. And he is number 1 in the league right now with those picks. I'm not too far behind at 127 and 94. That's 57%. And I see over in chat, Jason Priester from Shaking the Southlands, SB Nation's blog over there, saying that he's coming for you, Alan. I know this was something that Evan, one of our fans, said as well. He was coming for you, and you made quick work of Evan. Looks like you're going to have to turn it around on to Jason now. Everybody's coming after that number 1 spot. Kind of feels like Clemson now.
Yeah, all the hostility there. I mean, Jason and I ought to band together. I mean, Morgan Thomas, the show host, sabotaged our efforts early in the season and didn't let us get some of our picks in for like 12 games. I mean, we're still at the top of the leaderboard, okay? We need to band together and fight against this evil that is the show host trying to hold us down.
I don't remember that. My memory fails me on that. I have gotten all my picks in.
Oh, yeah. Go figure.
All right, so let's get us started here. The way we do it, we start with ACC games, and then we go through to ranked versus ranked games, and then we finish we finish it up for the night with talking about the Clemson versus Wofford game. And our pick, not going to be much, I don't think, for that game, but we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then we're going to go into our show. So let's start off with 12 p.m. game in the ACC. NC State, 4-3 NC State versus number 23 Wake Forest, 6-1. That's at Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Wake right now, I've got at -7.5.
Okay. So, I mean, both teams had a bye week last week, to prepare for this titanic grudge match that we have going on this weekend. Wake Forest really needs this win so they can be ranked when they come to Death Valley. Obviously, they're going to have to win this one and the next one. I'm taking the Demon Deacons to cover this -7.5. NC State, like I said, is just not a good football team. They got blown out by BC a couple weeks ago. It's just not good. So I'm taking Wake and their offense to kind of take it to them in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Wake Forest as well. I want to see a ranked matchup against Clemson, and I feel like the FPI right now is 74.1% Wake Forest winning. I think anytime you get into conference games and it's road games, it's very difficult to win road games in November and October. And NC State's not that good of a football team right now this year. Wake Forest is doing really well. And I really like to see Sage Surratt, 881 yards right now receiving with 9 total touchdowns. So he's a guy to look out for. I like to see him. He's another Surratt. I think he's related to the Surratt that's from North Carolina. So it's cool to see those two guys do well this year in the ACC. Next game is another 12 p.m. game, and that is Boston College going to Syracuse. We talked about this a little bit earlier on in our Clemson versus Boston College recap, but it's going to be in the Carrier Dome. Syracuse right now is -2.5. They are the favorite, which kind of made me scratch my head because I feel like Boston College is the better team in this situation.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. Obviously, Syracuse is kind of that team everybody likes to pick that, think they're going to be better than they usually are. Syracuse has been a really disappointing team this year. A lot of people had some relatively high hopes for them. So this is one of those games I really could not decide what to do with. So I'm thinking, most people are going to kind of have the same dilemma that I'm at and not really sure which one to take. Jason Priester, if you want to pick up a point, go opposite of me on this game because I really wasn't sure what to do. Syracuse allows 160 yards a game rushing, and that's all BC does. So I think BC is going to kind of be able to run the ball against a bad Syracuse team, control the clock. I'm going to take BC to cover the spread.
Yeah, I'm actually going with BC on this too. This is not one that's a favorite to pick either in the betting odds or on ESPN's FPI index. So, but I am going to go against that. I feel like Boston College has that ability to control a game against a team like Syracuse, and give me 2.5 points on that. Right now, again, I'll let you know this is a Monday night show, so any of our point spreads are going to be from Monday night, and they could update as we go. So if you're watching this Wednesday or replay or on the Roar Thursday night, our spread picks could be a little bit different. Just a disclaimer there. Next game is a 2:30 p.m. game. That's a kind of an interesting time for a game, but yeah. It's Virginia Tech 5-2. 5-2 Virginia Tech versus number 16 Notre Dame 5-2 as well. That's at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is minus 17 right now, or 17.5 depending on where you look. What you got there?
Yeah, I'm not sure how Virginia Tech is 5-2. I mean, it seems like every time I turn around, they're playing some nobody team really close, or getting blown out by somebody like Duke or something like that. It's another week of football, another week me picking against the Hokies. They had a bye week to prepare. Notre Dame just came off a shellacking at the hands of Michigan. So there's a lot out there in the college football world that says take the Hokies here, but I can't do it. Give me the Fighting Irish minus 17.
I think it's hard to win any road games, especially this is kind of like a conference game a little bit, but Notre Dame's going to be very upset after losing that game, getting just trounced over in Michigan, and I think they're going to come back mad and upset and ready to prove themselves against Virginia Tech, who, like I said, they have a good record, but we really don't know why. But I think Notre Dame is going to capitalize, and I would take Notre Dame minus the points on that situation. Here's one that's really tough for me, Al. Those teams in Florida, a 3:30 game, Miami, 4-4 Miami versus 4-4 Florida State at Doak Campbell Stadium. Right now, Florida State is the favorite, -4. What you got?
-4. Florida State is -4. Wow. Okay. When I looked up earlier today, they were -6.5. So obviously Vegas knows something. If the line came out that early and it's already jumped that much, they know something. But I don't always agree with what Vegas says, and that usually bites me. The Hurricanes this year are quite possibly on one of the biggest roller coasters that I've ever seen, especially in the Coastal Division. 2 weeks ago they lost at home in overtime to one of the worst teams in the ACC, maybe the worst team in the ACC, which is Georgia Tech. And then Saturday they beat what may have been or still is the leading contender in the Coastal in Pittsburgh. It's a jumbled mess for the Coastal Division. I think everybody's kind of vying at 2 losses, or Miami may have 3, something like that. I think it's time for them to dive back to the bottom of that coaster. I'm taking the Noles minus the points.
I hate to say it, but I'm also taking Florida State as well. They're predicted to win in the ESPN FPI, and I think that when it comes to, again, it's going to be like on repeat. Conference road games, very difficult to win. I think Miami runs out of their luck or whatever they do. This is not a Coastal matchup, so there's no need for them to screw it up. They're just going to lose. And so I think Florida State wins that. Give me Florida State minus the points. Next up is that team that you talked about. Actually, the 2 teams that you talked about. The Pittsburgh, who was at once thought to be the front runner for the Coastal, and then Georgia Tech is definitely probably the worst team in the ACC. 5-3 Pittsburgh versus a 2-5 Georgia Tech. That's at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta. Who do you got there?
Look, I mean, the Pittsburgh Panthers, they're fighting with the Virginia Cavaliers, the North Carolina Tar Heels, Virginia Tech Hokies, and the Miami Hurricanes to kind of see who can give away the Coastal crown. Every week they try to give it to the other teams, but nobody can just grab a hold of it and take it. So I'm going to say the Panthers win big on Saturday to kind of prove they're still mediocre enough to win the division. I'm taking Pittsburgh minus the points.
Yeah, I've got to take Pittsburgh against Georgia Tech. I really don't. I previously said, 2 weeks ago, that Georgia Tech would never win a game again this year, and then they somehow beat Miami in overtime. I know that that's weird to say. It was definitely an upset of the century for an ACC team. I think that Georgia Tech is going to get back on track of losing games, and I think they're going to lose this game against Pittsburgh. Even though it's an away game, Even though Pittsburgh's got to travel, I think that Pittsburgh's just that much better of a team. They're way better than Miami in some cases, but they just don't show up when they're supposed to. It's hard to win down there in Miami. It's hard to win a road game, but I am going to go with Pittsburgh in this case. Before we get into the last matchup on the ACC, this is one of a Coastal Division here. Let me tell you about the Coastal Division real quick. So you've got right now Virginia on top, 3 wins, 2 losses in the conference, 5-3 overall. Then number 2 is North Carolina, 3 wins, 2 losses, 4-4 overall. Virginia Tech. After that, Pittsburgh, Duke, Miami, and then Georgia Tech. So this game that we're about to say now is between the number 1 and number 2 team over in the Coastal as it stands right now, and that is 5-3 Virginia is traveling to Chapel Hill, 4-4 North Carolina. What you got there? North Carolina, as it's showing right now, is -1.5.
-1.5. Okay, look, going into the beginning of the season, UVA was kind of the leading contender in the Coastal. Everybody kind of thought they were going to have a good season, possibly, a 10-win season or something like that. I guess maybe that's still on the table for them. But much like the Pittsburgh Panthers, they're doing everything they can to kind of give other teams a chance. However, I'm going to take Virginia to get back on track and take down the hills. Give me Virginia plus the points.
I'm going against you on this one. I think I'm going with my road game, analysis there, my road game theory that is going to be difficult. Virginia, the reason why I thought of this road game theory is because of Virginia. They went to Louisville and lost. They have lost almost all of their road games this year. I think this is going to continue to be that way, and I look for Mac Brown to take the Tar Heels to win against Virginia, take over that top spot in the Coastal Division, and I look for him to dance in the locker room. He's not as good as Dabo, but he's cute too. He's kind of like it's kind of like George Bush dancing in the locker room. It's kind of interesting there just to see him try to do it. But moving on to ranked versus ranked games, we got 2 ranked versus ranked. There's really only one that is interesting. I think most people won't think this one is interesting, but let's start with number 15 SMU, Southern Methodist, at number 24 Memphis. Right now, Memphis is giving I got -3 or -6.
-3 or -6,
depending on where you look. You got ESPN's -6. Yahoo says -3.
Well, I'm going to assume -3 because that's what I had written down, and that's a huge jump. Look, plain and simple, I know nothing about this game. I'm going to have to ask some of our resident experts to kind of get in. Al and David, kind of give us your thoughts on this. Jason, if you're over on YouTube, kind of get in and give us your thoughts because I'd really like to make a pick. So if you could do that really fast, that would be great. I just think I heard something about maybe game day possibly being at Memphis for this. I'm not really sure if that's the case or not, but I'm going to give the Tigers the edge as another unbeaten goes down. Memphis covers the spread here, -3.
Memphis is the favorite, and it is a away game, and I will say that I'm going to go against it on this case. I'm going to pick SMU because I love Shane Buechele. I think he's a great quarterback, and I hate that he didn't work out at Texas because, man, he could sling it all over the field. I like what he's doing over in SMU. Right now, 2,325 yards passing with 20 touchdowns. Man, he's having himself a season and has a lot of games left to go. So I'm looking forward to him. I know they're undefeated. I want to see those Mustangs continue to be undefeated there. I think that they go to Memphis and upset them, and I believe it is College Game Day. I checked on Twitter before the show started, and I think they just announced that. So another exciting time for the Atlantic or the American Conference there to get College Game Day. And then the last ranked versus ranked, this one is the one I think most people are going to be concerned with, and that is number 8 Georgia at number 6 Florida. Not really at because they are in Jacksonville, but de facto at 6-1 Georgia versus a 7-1 Florida. The world's largest cocktail party. Nobody says that anymore, but that's what it used to be called. Right now, I got a disparity too. I've got ESPN showing -6, Yahoo showing 3.5 for Georgia, -6 or -3.5.
Wow, I prefer to take the 6 in this one, but I'm going to take the 3.5 because that's what I saw earlier as well. Look, this is the game to decide the SEC East after it was discovered just how much of a fraud Missouri was last week. I talked a few weeks ago about Missouri maybe backing their way into kind of the SEC East championship there, but goodness gracious, after losses to Vandy and Kentucky, there's no recovering from that, I don't believe. It's just, I think it proves just what a fraud their schedule was to begin with for sure. They kind of inflated their numbers against some bad teams. But I think this is a huge game. I think Florida ruins UGA's chances of getting back into the playoff picture here. Give me the Gators plus 3.5.
I can't go with my road team losing theory in this one because it's a neutral site game. So I'm going to go with who has the best rushing defense. And Georgia really right now has the best rushing defense. They're only allowing 10.6 points per game and 85.7 rushing yards per game. I believe that Georgia gets on track. They're 60% chance of winning right now. I think they keep that ball rolling, and their one-loss SEC East team. As much as I would love to say Florida wins, I don't see it. I think Georgia is going to continue their push towards getting to that SEC championship game. If you talk about SEC teams, it would seem that a team that loses to South Carolina and a team that wins against South Carolina should be able to beat the one that won, should be able to beat them, right? But I think that South Carolina and Georgia, they just always have this weird game. They always play each other really tight, so I kind of throw that one out, because it's just always very weird for me. You can't pick either one because South Carolina always plays them hard. They play them about as hard as they play Clemson, really. So I am going to go with Georgia in that case. And that finishes up our ranked versus ranked and our ACC matchups. But we got one left, Al, and that is Clemson versus Wofford, not Wake Forest. Clemson versus Wofford. Wofford's coming to town, and right now it looks like it's off over on ESPN. And I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be off. But Wofford, again, is a 5-2 overall. Let me give you some stats for you from Wofford. They have beat Virginia Military Institute, Weber, and Eastern Tennessee State, Western Carolina, and looks like University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. They're on a 5-game winning streak right now, Al. But Clemson is a 99.7% chance of winning. Do you think that 3% chance, or that 0.3% chance, could happen?
No. Plain and simple. No, absolutely not. Somewhere I saw where Clemson was minus 47 points in this game. Obviously, I think most places are going to have it off. Look, there's not really much to say here. I think Clemson's going to dominate this game. Wofford is just kind of overmatched in this case. They don't have any wins against big teams. I think they're going to kind of run into the new Clemson offense, as we've seen this past week, kind of kick it into high gear. Brent Venables may kind of, concoct a scheme, and the third string is going to kind of give up a field goal late. Right now, I'm having Clemson winning the game, and if 47 is truly the spread, I'm going to have them cover as well. My score prediction: Clemson 52, Wofford 3.
Well, I would never pick like 40-something point spread in a real game, but in this game, I would definitely say that they're not a team that should hang with Clemson at all. I don't see them even having a chance to score. If Clemson plays the way they've been playing, they should just completely dominate. So any point spread is a winner for me with Clemson. But I hope it's off, because you don't want to see some like 50-point spread. It's just ridiculous at that point. Just do a straight up winner. But let us know what you think about it over in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to get in on the conversation, always you can chat in Facebook or YouTube and let us know your name, where you're from, and what your questions are. Looks like Jason Priester is running through some of his picks over on YouTube. We have 22 people watching. Jason says he thinks Memphis is going to win an in SMU streak. He thinks BC is going to run it down the throats against Syracuse, I'm supposing. He thinks Wake Forest is going to own North Carolina State. So get in on these, because Jason Priester and Alan Adams, big time picks against the spread guys. What you got over on Facebook, Al?
We got about 18. We have Stephanie's in with us. Al and David's been giving us picks the whole time. Stephanie's really loving when you're talking about Georgia. She really appreciated all that good Georgia talk that you had earlier. I see my mom in as well, but we got some good conversation going on here for sure. So we appreciate all the support here on Facebook as usual. Like the show, share the show, follow the show, and if you're over on YouTube, make sure you subscribe as well. We want to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, but we really appreciate everybody that joins us on right now Monday nights and kind of gets in and engages in the conversation here. We really appreciate that. Next week, make sure you give a call to the Buffalo Wild Wings hotline. Morgan, our wonderful host, will have that up and running for you next week, I'm sure. So Morgan, what you got for us to end the show?
Now, Al, you can vouch for me. I did have it up when we first started the show. But we had to reset everything. But that's it for tonight. I'm so excited about what we're doing on Monday nights. Some people were asking, are we going to make this permanent? Al, I don't know, man. I mean, we're having a ton of reaction and feedback and a lot of comments over on Monday night. A lot of people have said they prefer Monday night in the season, at least. Not so much. It doesn't really matter off season. Off season, Wednesday nights seem to do really well for us as far as with our jobs, but also for fans as well. But Monday nights seem to be doing really well for fans now because, when it comes to games that happen on Saturday, you want to go ahead and talk about it on Monday. You don't want to have to wait till Wednesday. And so we understand that, and we're trying to meet you where you want your Clemson content, and that seems to be Monday night. Al, I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but this might be something that we'll continue to do. It'll help us both out with our work-life balance too. So keep a lookout over on Twitter or Facebook. We'll make sure to post if it's permanent or not. You'll see some changes there, but we appreciate it. If you don't have a chance to check it out Monday nights, remember there's always a replay over on YouTube. There's not only replays on YouTube, but we also do a replay on the Roar on the radio, 105.5 FM, 97.5 FM, every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Walt Deptula, Ellis Tolbert, and then us. And then we are now a podcast. So everywhere you can get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you really go to get your podcast, we are there. So check us out there if you just want to listen to the audio version of the show. We appreciate the support as always. Again, it's our bedtime, Al. We hope that you have a good rest of the week. We hope you enjoy what's coming up this weekend with college football. We hope you enjoy we hope we all enjoy another Clemson win. But it's our bedtime. We're out of here. Have a great weekend. And Tiger fans, remember, we'll see you at the top of the hill.